Good morning, everyone. So, I have gotten a lot of questions recently about RSI divergences. I know a lot of them we talk about bullish divergence, and then we started introducing hidden bearish and hidden bullish, and people were getting a little bit confused. So, now this is how I tend to use RSI divergences, and it's not how everyone else will use them, but more often than not, it's how I've seen them play out. So I'm just going to touch on how I like to use them in order to help with my trading. And again, like they're not the only signal that I use, and I don't use them by themselves, but I'll certainly use them with other tools in order to maximize, trading potentials. So the first one I want to look at is regular bullish divergence. Okay, so if we look at, this is the GDX daily chart. So we can see that we had a dump low here, and then we had a nice oversold bounce. And then we hit a lower low, and the RSI had bullish divergence, and that played out. Okay, so sometimes we'll see divergence play out over multiple times, but we have to remember here is that when we hit a lower low, we automatically became in a downtrend. So it doesn't mean that this divergence is going to take us back into an uptrend. It means it's going to take us where we would expect a move to take us based on that oversold time frame, and we would expect, a bull move. So this one took us, pretty good. I would say daily oversold. Looked at daily middle Bollinger Band. It took us a little bit, took us there, consolidated a little beyond there, and then we went down again further, and the RSI kept diverging. So I said, okay, the more it diverges, you'll get a good move. But again, when you're reaching daily oversold, I'm still not looking to change the trend. Where it got interesting in this play was when we broke these highs. And so once those highs broke, we could ride it out a little further. And then it played out. So once the bullish divergence plays out, we have to forget about it. We have to move on from it, and we have to look for other clues, because just because there was bullish divergence here doesn't mean that we're, going up to the moon. So the first thing to notice here was, okay, when is this divergence topping out? And you can see that it tops out here when we have a double top and the RSI gets overbought from versus this level where it was, down in the 50s, and here we're up in the 72s. And price has not gone above it. So that's hidden bearish divergence, because the price has not been able to move, and we had a nice pullback from there. So, and then, sideways trading, we've been in equilibrium for a while, so we're not going to, continue that. But again, so here we had it play out here once, oversold, bounce to the middle Bollinger Band was all I would play on that. Okay, patiently waiting, lower low. It did go to the middle Bollinger Band. It took a really long time to get there, so not such a nice play. Another dump, more divergence, and then beautiful play from those multiple times played out. So the time when I stop looking for divergence to be, our signal that it's kind of over is when we start seeing these other signals of other types of divergences. And so when you see this, that, RSI is going much higher, even here, you could have seen, okay, RSI is going much higher. It played out, we went back down, but then we broke that high. So once we broke that high, we had to keep looking. And then we finally saw it play out with a double top. So again, it's not the only tool, but we have to know where it's heading. ETH had a really nice one that I pointed out. Okay, so ETH daily was oversold. We were seeing hourly, here's divergence, bullish divergence. RSI is staying the same. We're making much lower lows. Okay, and then we bounced, which was great. But again, we bounced to here. And we can see another divergence, whereas here price is far lower and RSI is going in the opposite direction. So that was the end of our bounce, and we can tell that those bounces are over just by things like where our daily targets are. So we had daily targets here. If we're looking down here where those divergences were, okay, we were looking up towards exponential. We didn't even hit maybe the 4 period, but we were looking for those targets, and then it topped out and it went back down and it formed a bear flag. So what, on bullish divergence on one time frame can still be very bearish on every other time frame. So we can see that that happened and that played out. And then we dump back down again. And then we had bullish divergence again. See here, you can see the hourly. We hit a lower low and the hourly hit a higher low on divergence. And we had a really nice play out. And when I went bearish on ETH, I actually got stopped out by a silly wick there because I had set my stop break even instead of over 418. So that was my own mistake. But I had gone bearish here on ETH because we were hitting a double top at 419, just under 419. We had massive hidden bearish divergence where the RSI had topped out far beyond, and our bullish divergence therefore had played out already. And then you can see we hit a huge dump again. Okay, here again, you can see it another time where we had the bullish divergence versus the price action. Okay, lower lows. Now it's played out again. And here's the difference, okay? This has not created enough because we can still go over. We're not sure where that's going to play out. So we're going to wait and see where that plays out. Daily time frame now, unless we can get over that 418 level, daily time frame will start making that divergence too, and you can see it there. So, and then there's the times when you're waiting for bullish divergence to play out and it doesn't seem to play out. And this one I find very key also. So it happens a lot on the 5-minute time frame where we'll trade sideways, we'll keep creating all these divergences and the price will just keep dumping lower and lower, and you end up getting in a little bit too early because of that. So here's how I like to play it. So I find that if I notice that there's a divergence, first of all, on the 5-minute, you're not going to expect much, okay? Because it's only on the 5-minute time frame and it only works for the time frame that you're looking at. So we see here we had our low and then our lower low and we saw divergence. The next candle we did actually see a bounce, but just up to exponential resistance. So when I start to pay attention that this is not done is if we would break this RSI trend line, then I say that that divergence is negated and it no longer applies. And I would wait to look for a new divergence or look for one on a higher time frame. Okay, so if the 5-minute's not playing out because we now broke RSI to a lower low with the price, this is negated to me. I no longer care that that happened. It's new. So that's gone and we're going to look for something new. So then we can look again and we can say, okay, here we hit a low and a lower low, and here we hit our higher low. And then that started to play out finally. We got a nice bull move. Okay. And then by the time we reached here, well, I would probably have stopped out here. I know actually on this play, Dan did start to go bearish here, and then he stopped out over 155. So he sort of played that in general because he knew at some point we were going to need a higher low to continue this, and it was just an oversold bounce. At this point, it had probably been oversold on the 15-minute time frame too. So let's see if we can find that. So we should be in around here. Okay. So again, 15-minute got oversold. These are not with extended hours, so it's going to be a little different. And there's my target. Targets are usually whatever time frame, middle Bollinger Band. So you can see we got up to there, and then eventually we did end up pulling back. I'm not sure that that's still the same. Oh, no, we're looking here. Okay, here. 15-minute got nice and oversold. We had a tiny little divergence here, and that played out on the 5-minute. And then, like I said, target for me is 15-minute middle Bollinger Band when we're 15-minute oversold. That was a really nice target. We grinded a long time and then finally had a bull break and then topped out. So, and if you look where we topped out with hidden bearish. So just looking at all the clues. So remembering that divergences does not mean we're going to change the trend. It's looking for a bounce to continue. And you need to have your target for that bounce. And you need to know when the divergence has stopped. It can't just be, well, we had divergence, therefore. It's the divergence ends at a certain point. And a lot of times it'll end with this hidden bearish divergence. And then look, there was really nice downside after that too. So you can play it both ways. You can use it as targets for both things, but remembering the overall trend. Facebook was in a downtrend, so we're only looking for that oversold bounce. Yeah, there was more upside than maybe a short squeeze, whatever, and then the market's kind of turned on us again. But whatever it is, you're always looking for your target and your exit, and not just to say, well, divergence. So that's how I like to use it. I hope that there was a few tips in there that might help some other people with the divergence plays, because they can be tricky, knowing when it's bullish, when it's bearish, and when the bearish takes over from the bullish. A lot of times you'll see bullish divergence that's really just a bear flag, and that's when I really like to use those RSIs as soon as they break those trend lines to me to show that this bullish divergence isn't going anywhere. We're going bearish again. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.